pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back to our channel. We here at Bearklaw's Gaming Room hope you've had a safe travel getting here. Please sit back and enjoy our show.
The USS Independence CVL-22, also CV-22, was a United States Navy light aircraft carrier. She served as the lead ship of her class during World War II. From the hull of a Cleveland-class light cruiser, she was built by the New York Shipbuilding Corporation and commissioned in January 1943. She took part in the attacks on Rabaul and Tarawa before being torpedoed by Japanese aircraft, necessitating repairs in San Francisco from January to July 1944. After repairs, she launched many strikes against targets in Luzon and Okinawa. The USS Independence was part of the carrier group that sank the remnants of the Japanese mobile fleet in the Battle of Lake Gulf and several other Japanese ships in the Surigao Strait. Until the surrender of Japan, she was assigned to strike duties against targets in the Philippines and Japan. She finished her operational duty off the coast of Japan supporting occupation forces until being assigned to return American veterans back to the United States as part of Operation Magic Carpet. And the USS Independence was later used as a target during the U.S. Navy Sea atomic bomb tests, Operation Crossroads. After being transported back to Pearl Harbor in San Francisco for study, she was later sunk near the Farallon Islands. Construction and deployment. It all began as Light Cruiser Amsterdam, CL-59. She was launched as CV-22 on August 22, 1942, by the New York Shipbuilding Corporation, Camden, New Jersey, and sponsored by Mrs. Dorothy Warner. She was the wife of Raleigh Warner Sr., and he was the chairman of Pure Oil Co., and commissioned on January 14, 1943. The first of a new class of carriers converted from cruiser hulls. The Independence conducted shakedown training in the Caribbean. She then steamed through the Panama Canal to join the Pacific Fleet, arriving in San Francisco on July 3, 1943. The Independence got underway for Pearl Harbor on July 14, 1943, and after 2 weeks of training exercises, she sailed with carriers Essex and Yorktown for a raid on Marcus Island. Aircraft from the carrier force struck on September 1st and destroyed over 70% of the installations on the island. The carrier began her next operation, a similar strike against Wake Island in October as CVL-22, having been redesignated on July 15, 1943. Rabaul and Gilbert Islands strikes. The Independence sailed from Pearl Harbor for Espiritu Santo on October 21, 1943, and during an ensuing carrier attack on Rabaul Island, November 11, 11, 1943, the ship's gunners scored their first success, 6 Japanese aircraft shot down. After this operation, the carrier then refueled at Espiritu Santo, then headed for the Gilbert Islands, and conducted pre-landing strikes on Tarawa, November 18th to the 20th, 1943. During a Japanese counterattack on November 20th, the Independence was attacked by a group of aircraft low on the water. 6 were shot down, but the aircraft launched at least 5 torpedoes, one of which hit the carrier's starboard quarter, seriously damaged. The ship steamed to Funafuti on November 23, 1943, for emergency repairs. The Independence returned to San Francisco, January 2, 1944, for more permanent repairs, refitting, and training for night operations. The new veteran carrier returned to Pearl Harbor, July 3, 1944. During her repair period, the ship had been fitted with an additional catapult, and upon her arrival in Hawaiian waters, Independence began training for night carrier operations, embarking the specially trained night fighter and torpedo units of Night Air Group 41, NAG 41, in August. She continued this pioneering work up to August 29th, 1944, out of Eniwetok. The ship sailed with a large task group on August 29th, 1944, to take part in the Palau operation and the Battle of Peleliu, aimed at securing bases for the final assault on the Philippines in October. Independence provided night reconnaissance and night combat air patrol for Task Force 38 during this operation. Philippines. In September, the Fast Carrier Task Force regularly pounded the Philippines in preparation for the invasion. When no Japanese counterattacks developed in this period, Independence shifted to regular daytime operations, striking targets on Luzon. After replenishment at Ulithi in early October, the Great Force sortied October 6, 1944, for Okinawa. In the days that followed, the carrier struck Okinawa, Formosa, and the Philippines. Japanese air counterattacks were repulsed, with Independence providing DEI strike groups in addition to night fighters and reconnaissance aircraft for defensive protection. As the carrier group steamed east of the Philippines, October 23, 1944, it became apparent, as Admiral Kearney later recalled, that something on a grand scale was underfoot. And, indeed, it was. As the Japanese fleet moved in a 3-pronged effort to turn back the American beachhead on Lake Gulf. Aircraft from Independence's Task Group 38.2, under Rear Admiral Bogan, spotted Kurita's striking force in the Sibuyan Sea, October 24, 1944, and the carriers launched a series of attacks. Aircraft from Task Group 38.2 and other task groups sank the battleship Musashi and disabled the heavy cruiser Myoko. Embarking a night carrier air group, Independence played no role in the attacks on Kurita's force on the 24th. That evening, Admiral Halsey made the decision to turn Task Force 38 northward, in search of Admiral Ozawa's carrier group. Independence's night search aircraft made contact and shadowed the Japanese ships of the Northern Force until dawn on October 25, 1944, when the carriers launched an attack. In this second part of the Great Battle for Lake Gulf, all 4 Japanese carriers were sunk. Meanwhile, American heavy ships had won a victory to secure the Surigao Strait, and an escort carrier force had outfought the remainder of Kurita's ships in the battle off Samar. Independence sailed with TF-38 during the destruction of Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa's Northern Diversion Fleet off Cape Angonio. After the battle, which virtually spelled the end of the Japanese Navy as a major threat, Independence continued to provide search aircraft and night fighter protection for TF-38 in strikes against the Philippines. Independence returned to Ulithi for long-delayed rest and replenishment on November 9, 1944, but soon got underway to operate off the Philippines on night attacks and defensive operations. This phase continued until December 30th, 1944, when the task force sortied from Ulithi once more and moved northward. From January 3rd to 1945, the carriers supported the Lingdayan landings on Luzon, after which Halsey took his fleet on a foray into the South China Sea. In the days that followed, the aircraft struck at air bases on Formosa and on the coasts of Indochina and China. These operations in support of the Philippines campaign marked the end of the carrier's night operations, and she sailed January 30th, 1945, for repairs at Pearl Harbor, Okinawa. Independence returned to Ulithi March 13th, 1945, and got underway next day for operations against Okinawa. She carried out pre-invasion strikes March 30th, 1944, and after the assault, April 1st, remained off the island supplying combat air patrol and strike aircraft. Her aircraft shot down numerous enemy aircraft during the desperate Japanese attacks on the invasion force. Independence remained off Okinawa until June 10th, 1944, when she sailed for Leyte. During July and August, the carrier took part in the final carrier strikes against Japan itself. After the end of the war on August 15th, Independence aircraft continued surveillance flights over the mainland, locating prisoner of war camps, and covered the landings of Allied occupation troops. The ship departed Tokyo September 22nd, 1945, arriving at San Francisco via Saipan and Guam, October 31st, 1944. Operation Crossroads. The USS Independence joined the Operation Magic Carpet Fleet beginning November 15th, 1945, transporting veterans back to the United States until arriving at San Francisco once more, January 28th, 1946. Assigned as a target vessel for the Operation Crossroads atomic bomb tests, she was placed within 1/2 mile of Ground Zero for the July 1st explosion. The veteran ship did not sink, though her funnels and island were crumpled by the blast, and after taking part in another explosion on July 25th, she was then taken to Kwajalein and decommissioned August 28th, 1946, sinking and wreck. The highly radioactive hull was later moved to Pearl Harbor and then San Francisco for further tests. She was finally scuttled near the Farallon Islands off the coast of California on the 29th of January 1951 by packing 2 torpedoes in her hull. Controversy has subsequently arisen about the sinking of Independence, as it is claimed that she was loaded with barrels of radioactive waste at the time of her sinking, and that the waste has subsequently contaminated the wildlife refuge and commercial fisheries associated with the Farallon Islands. However, in 2015, it was considered that any public health risk was small, as might be expected after this period of time. In 2009, the position of the wreck of USS Independence was confirmed to be in the waters of Monterey Bay National Marine, off the Farallon Islands. It was confirmed via deep water, multi-beam sonar survey conducted from the NOAAS, the Okeanos Explorer. In March of 2015, scientists and technicians of the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, on the sanctuary vessel R/V Fulmar, used the autonomous underwater vehicle Echo Ranger to survey the wreck, employing the Ecoscope three-dimensional imaging sonar to make a series of images. The ship is resting upright, with a slight list to starboard, and most of the flight deck intact, although there are gaping holes in the flight deck leading to the hangar deck below. No signs of radioactive contamination were detected, although the barrels of waste are still visible inside the hangar deck, and some have rusted open. A NOAA spokesman described the wreck as amazingly intact. In 2016, a mission led by James P. Delgado, a deep-sea archaeologist, partnered with the Ocean Exploration Trust and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. He brought investigators closer to the wreckage than ever before. Using robotic exploration vehicles, the team surveyed the USS Independence for the first time since she sank 65 years ago, streaming footage online. While investigating the wreckage, researchers found evidence of at least one existing Grumman Hellcat plane, as well as the partial remains of an SB-2C4 Helldiver and 40mm and 20mm anti-aircraft weaponry. Honors and awards for USS Independence received 8 battle stars for World War II service.
Ladies and gentlemen, we honor the USS Independence, valiant warship of the Pacific, commissioned in January 14th, 1943, decommissioned in August 28th, 1946. Her service was brief, yet brilliant. A proud sentinel in war, a silent witness in atomic trial. She rests now beneath the waves, her legacy unsinkable. Her sacrifice etched in history's steadfast memory.